our shower project, we installed this nook to store bottles and soap bars, but that's not enough storage, so just to give us a little bit of additional storage, we also installed these corner shelves. And I really like them because they're pretty easy to install. You can put them into pretty much any tiled shower, and they add a decent amount of extra space. If you already have an existing shower that's already got the grout filled in on those gaps, no worries, you can always pick up a grout removal tool. They come in the manual type, which will just scrape it out manually. You can also get an attachment for either an oscillating tool or an angle grinder, and those will allow you to remove out that grout. Just be very careful not to scratch the tile. When I first unboxed these shelves, I noticed that they are wrapped in this sort of plastic shrink wrap, and I tried to just pick at it from the corner, but I really couldn't peel it off. So just to make it easier to remove that plastic wrap, I used a hot air dryer, and that made it a lot easier to peel off. The trickiest part of this entire installation is getting nice clean caulk lines. Before I even picked up the tube of caulk, I went ahead and used blue painter's tape, and I marked not only the line around the tile, but also the shelf itself. I put blue painter's tape on, top and bottom. That way when you peel it off, it'll be nice and clean. For the most aesthetic look, it's a good idea to get caulk that's going to color match your grout. I then placed a thin bead of caulk in that gap between the tiles. So this is just enough to hold the shelf into place. And then after I put the shelf in, I'm going to kind of wiggle it around, make sure I have a good secure placement of it. The tiles themselves are going to hold a lot of the weight, but you want the caulk to be securing it as well as possible. I find it helpful to hold one hand on the shelf as I'm applying the caulk to the bottom and the top. That way I don't accidentally wiggle it as I'm applying it. Sometimes when I'm applying caulk to a joint like this, I'll accidentally put too much. And the problem is when I go to smooth it out, I'll end up with this big gob of caulk that ends up making it very difficult to keep a nice, crisp, smooth line. So in a situation like this, I like to keep it as minimal as possible, just barely cover that space, so that when I go to smooth it out later, there will be very little excess. When it comes to spreading out the caulk, you can either use a bare finger or you can use a glove. I find that if my finger is really dry, sometimes I'll add a little bit of water, especially with the silicone caulk, and then I'll spread it out from the inside all the way out. And I don't want to put it on really thick, and I also don't want to press it down so thin that you can see the tile. I pretty much want to just barely be able to see the edge of that blue tape as I'm spreading it across. I also like to remove the tape while the caulk is still wet. If you wait until it's already dried, then it usually tears and it kind of leaves a jagged edge. But removing it while it's still wet allows it to be a nice crisp edge. These shelves are a very economical way to upgrade your shower. I think they're very stable because a lot of the weight is actually resting on these tiles, and the caulk is just sort of there to hold it up. They also come in a bunch of different finishes, so you can get whatever matches your specific shower. We purchased these online. You can find a bunch of different manufacturers of those, and I'll put a link for what we got specifically on there. If you guys have any thoughts, please put those in the comment section below, and we appreciate a like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.